Here's the first of 4 assignments from this week, a graphite drawing of a city in multi-point perspective, the topic of the week in the Milan Art Mastery Program, Part 1, Section 6. Perspective is all about translating a 3-dimensional world into a 2-dimensional surface, your paper or canvas. And it's a lot harder than it sounds. This course teaches perspective through observation rather than through calculation. So that makes it a very right-brained approach. Ellie doesn't recommend drawing a perspective grid, and she doesn't teach that at all. She actually minimizes perspective to focusing on figuring out the big shapes in a piece and making relational measurements, like measuring the angles as if they were around a clock face. I feel well prepared for this assignment. Urban sketching has given me a fair bit of confidence with pencil sketching and architectural subjects. Although I could have been more accurate, I'm happy with the results I got here for the level of energy I was willing to put into the piece. Ellie actually suggested just a contour drawing for this assignment, maybe with some light shading. I tried to get most of the perspective handled with my initial drawing and started to fill in focused mostly on value. But there are definitely some places that I should have gone back and corrected my perspective, like in the sign on the lower left. Well, here's the final piece. I had fun, and it's not a bad way to spend a Tuesday evening. Now, I find calculations more comforting than measurements, but I attempt to surrender to the right-brained way in this next project. This is layer 1 of a subtractive city sketch in oil paint. In the first layer, you're blocking in just values more than color, and I was really trying for both because this is a nightscape and I wanted to challenge myself to paint the glow of the city. Plus, I have a passion for these bokeh lighting effects, so as soon as I saw this reference photo, I wanted to try and paint it. For this first layer, I blocked in some color, and I like this bright drippy layer so much that a lot of it makes it into my final piece. I'll go back in and I'll add a little more dark, and then I'll start to go through the city with a subtractive tool and add a little more dark and carve out the buildings and the lightest areas a bit until I'm happy with that first layer. Now, similar to last week's coverage on the topic of composition, this week's approach was a broad overview on the topic of perspective, with the main training taking about 20 minutes. So you will want to satisfy any left-brained itch you have to learn the mathematics and the rules of perspective elsewhere. And there are some really great resources here on YouTube. Just search for 1, 2, 3, and up to 6-point perspective. There's even a 0-point perspective. And lots of great free lessons on perspective from many talented creators. And here's the thing about perspective. The more viewpoints, perspectives you learn from, the more well-rounded your education will be. So, although the education on perspective was brief, Ellie did say one thing that I hadn't heard before, that in 2-point perspective, all of your vertical lines are straight, but there are no straight horizontal lines at all. They all lean. And in 3-point perspective, all of your vertical lines are at an angle. So there are no straight vertical lines in 3-point perspective. So that was kind of original, and it was a nice, easy way to tell what kind of perspective you're looking at. So I've started noticing that in life now. This was the next drawing assignment, a cityscape in charcoal. This was fun, playing with the value and trying not to drag my hand all over the page. I started with the mid-tone charcoal color and then just darkened and lightened the scene until I had the spirit of the intersection. There's a third charcoal assignment, a crowd of people, and I'll be working on that when this video premieres. I've already watched the training for it. I'm happy with this final version. It took me about 80 minutes. I couldn't resist adding a little wax pastel to infuse more color and meaning to the piece at the end. Now I'm onto the second layer of this oil piece, adding in the darks. Now, I sped this up considerably. I spent about an hour on this part of the painting. I'm still using transparent paint, just trying to add dark tones wherever I see them. And when I get to the end of this, I will let it dry again overnight. I really like how the detail is starting to shape up on this building right here I'm working on the right side. And I think I get tired right about here. And I apologize for not locking the autofocus and then it keeps shifting in and out. Now here I am on the final layer of the piece, the final day. Now when I started on this day, I didn't quite know where to go from here. I spent a little time selecting quite a big palette of bright colors and creamy neutrals for the buildings. I wanted to keep as much of the color that attracted me to the reference photo as possible in the final piece. And I thought a lot about this painting during the last hour with it. This was my first cityscape, and they aren't really my thing. I think I prefer painting organic shapes. And I'm just going to work my way around this painting, adding in lighter opaque areas, kind of from the upper left and down so that I don't drag my hand through the piece. In the reference, all of the areas where the building was not illuminated were rather like flat and lifeless, so I kind of let those parts be flatter and more opaque. And where the buildings were lit by colored lights, I let a lot of that original bright layer shine through. Now, in studying perspective this week, my own perspective has shifted a bit into areas. First, I think I've finally figured out why I'm so bothered by the shallow depth of the lessons in this program. They went wide and broad in their teachings, teaching a lot of topics and strategies rather than deep and highly specific, and it's called the Mastery Program. So I think I'm just caught up on the fact that mastery to me means both wide and deep. I want to know everything there is to know about all the tools and all the techniques and all at once. And it's an impossibly high standard, really. I want to master fine arts, and this course isn't the complete answer. It's just the beginning. A really very good beginning. So I'm going to accept the program for what it is and be grateful for the opportunity to open my practice to each of these new ideas and methods that are being taught. And speaking of accepting the program for what it is, my second shift in perspectives this week was about these assignments. I'm going to let myself be okay to do B-level work. And it hurts a little bit to say it because I've always been an overachiever. But done is better than perfect. And I'm going to finish these sections in 3 weeks, from training to video publication, even if I don't really like my results in the end. Because that's okay. I now see these paintings as assignments rather than messages from my heart or even beautiful things that I want around me. These are studies, and I am studying. Each painting is just another rep of practice, another hour in my 10,000 hours I need to rack up to even consider calling myself a master. So if you are thinking of joining the Mastery Program and you want to go through the Milan Art Mastery journey with me, I'd love it if you join the program through my affiliate link. It doesn't cost you any more, and I'll get a few $100s to put towards my next round of supplies. And for everyone who joins with my link, I'm adding a bonus of creating an accountability system with them. I have a few people that I can send my works in progress, ask for advice, or just plain shed some anxiety over creations, and that's what I can be for you. Not a coach, but a study buddy, someone who ideally stays a step ahead. Even though this final result isn't a piece I'd have ever painted without the assignment, I had a lot of fun, and I like the results in the end. I'm happy with just how much glow I managed to get out of that first layer. Now, if you want to see the full playlist of my Milan Art Mastery experiences, you can click here. And subscribe to my channel so you don't miss the release of the next section's video. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.